Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
All right, Dean, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is
Okay.
2022 the year of RFID?
Yes.
Yeah.
2022
Oh,
is the
okay.
year for RFID. Is that bold enough? Was I
I,
strong enough in my commitment?
that's a bold proclamation. We're going to revisit this at the end of the year and see if you're right.
Well, our guest today is going to back me up. Maybe, I don't know. We'll
I
see.
hope so. This has been a running gag, obviously, for a long
It
time. Is
has
this
been.
year the
It has
RFID
been.
year?
That's
And I
right.
think we've finally kind of reached that consensus where it's not going to be this big replacement to all things
That's right.
barcoding, but a nice supplement, has its use cases. And we're going to get into some of those use cases and some industries that can really benefit, in particular, manufacturing and warehouse logistics. As you mentioned, we got Pete Collins with us today from A2B Tracking. He's going to talk with us a little bit about how you make the pitch for RFID over barcoding or alongside of it, depending on your situation, how important it is to have a strategy for implementing RFID.
Mm-hmm.
What should you look for in your partnerships in order to implement a strategy? He's
Yep.
going to tell us a little bit about his approach to RFID. And we'll also have a little fun conversation about some other stuff going on in the warehouse around cobots and those autonomous robots and how they fit into the RFID picture too. So I think we got some fun topics to cover today.
Absolutely. Good one.
Yep. All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's tech connecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, so as I mentioned, our guest today, Pete Collins, is the A2B Tracking Solutions founder, president, and CEO. See, this is why we do this podcast, so we can bring in people like you that clearly know more about our topic than we ever will. So thank you for joining us today. Pete, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this business? How did you end up finding A2B?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. So, pleasure to be here. So, A2B Tracking is actually a company that's now 28 years in business, and I founded it back in the mid 90s. The core focus at the time was really to focus more on the software piece of tracking technologies because we felt as though the industry was doing a great job of introducing auto ID technologies, barcode, and now eventually RFID, and many more that can surround that whole sphere. But we thought the software piece was crucial in adding the level of intelligence needed to make business value and business sense out of it. Today, our focus is in the market. We are Our 100% focus is on building a market-leading asset management and inventory control software platform in the cloud that allows customers to use mobile RFID readers, fixed RFID reading capability, autonomous RFID robots. We'll get into a little bit that later on here, known as AMRs, to manage and track the movement of assets and inventory throughout their organization, oftentimes in manufacturing and warehouse environments. Now, I just have to do a quick plug here, guys, because auto ID kind of runs in the blood here for A2B Tracking,
Right.
meaning that I had a father who is still with us, and he's doing great, and he is one of the early innovators in auto ID technology. His name's David Collins. And he goes back to implementing auto ID in the form of the earliest barcode back in the 1950s on railroad cars,
Wow.
and
Wow.
went on to innovate some of the earliest barcode scanners that exist that we know about from the 60s into the 70s. It does run in the blood in my family, literally. And auto ID is just sort of part of what I've always been around. So here I am.
Well, I was going to
That's
ask if he
awesome.
was a part of the first scan that happened at that grocery store with the Wrigley's gum. Was he on the scanner there? Or?
No, he was very familiar with that, but his application actually precedes that by, I don't know, at least a decade or more.
Yeah.
Because the first problem they were solving with auto ID was railroad cars. So you get railroad cars flowing up and down the coast and across country, but they were these big boxes, big boxes that you didn't know what the heck was in them and where they were at any given time. So they created this system called CarTrack, which goes back to the late 50s, where you mount a huge reader, basically light array, to track big mounted barcodes vertically mounted on railroad cars. So every time they'd pass that point, it would detect the car where it was at any given time.
That's
Technology
pretty
worked.
cool.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
technology worked really well, so the railroads hated it.
Of course.
They never wanted to be held accountable to the fact that they were going to make the shipment late and it was on them. So I'm
Ah,
just going to
yes,
leave
I
that
see.
there.
Oh,
Yeah,
darn. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I always love hearing about those practical use cases that somebody found for something y- that no one else was needing or wanting or had a reason to do. They found a practical use case, and suddenly it becomes a de facto standard for everything across the world, so
Mhm.
I like that. That's a good origin story, if you will, for you and your dad and A2B tracking. So well, hey,
Thanks.
let's get into this conversation then about RFID when it comes to manufacturing and warehouse. This was kind of the angle you thought we should really tackle here and get into. So I'll let you start with a simple place here. Let's make the pitch for RFID either over or alongside barcoding in manufacturing and warehousing. Where do you think is what's the reason that someone should be doing this versus what they've always been doing?
Yeah, great question. So let me first frame the fact that I'm going to be talking about passive RFID,
Okay.
or in the standards realm, we're talking about RAIN RFID.
Hmm.
So not active, not battery powered, really focused on just RAIN and passive. So with that being said, our experience is when we go into customer environments, they're always kind of this underlayer of a question in their mind, is that, is RFID just another data collection technology like barcode?
Mm.
And the answer, the fact is that yes, it is just another data collection technology, but it's much, much more powerful. So the first thing, recognizing, and I'm sure everybody who listens to these podcasts probably know to some degree, when you pull a trigger and you try and scan and you're surrounded by RFID tags, you're going to catch hundreds of tags in seconds.
Mhm.
Now, that's exciting, but it also is a little scary at the same time. So, RFID needs to be properly harnessed in order for the implementation to go well. So, from that perspective, it is profoundly different. When you've got handheld readers, when you've got fixed readers and autonomous robots moving around, literally reading thousands and thousands of tags per second. What do you do with all that data? I'll come back to that. So
Okay.
here's the deal with RFID. So I I I absolutely now, with the years of seeing RFID implemented in customer environments, I believe it is a game changer. So why do we say that? Our number one measuring stick is our customers here at A2B. And here's why they're saying that. So, managing something physical that's important enough, right, to
Mhm.
track it in an organization. It could be, something that's critical to keeping an operations running. It
Mhm.
could be a customer shipment that is really timely. It's a high stakes game, right, for all these companies that we serve today with the technology. So, how and where to find that critical asset or inventory is a very fluid environment where things are constantly moving or changing or growing legs and walking away, is actually hard. And what's with today's RFID, it's about accuracy of where an item is, and it's about time savings of getting to it as a primary motivator. Using mobile computers in the A2B tracking platform, we've taken the use of this notion of a Geiger counter to a whole nother level.
Mhm.
And we've created a feature that we call ProLocate that allows users to walk around the warehouse and find an item in just a few minutes, if not seconds, right? Something that could literally have taken hours and or days in the past, even using a basic barcode system. So barcode obviously does not have this special radio seeking capability. Period. It's not there, and that's just one example. It's also about efficient data collection too, right?
Yep.
So in the past, an inventory, even using barcode, could take weeks for an organization. So with even up to months, with geographically separate facilities where you've got warehouses. Now an organization can accomplish a full wall-to-wall inventory literally in just days with a very high degree of accuracy and a limited amount of labor. And to me, that is a big game changer for an organization. We call it a 30 times return on labor.
Hmm.
So for certain time consuming functions that could take up to 30 days, like performing that inventory, it could just take 1 or 2 days now. And then you add in, guys, autonomous readers to the picture,
Mm-hmm.
and you get even more data collection points that take where stuff is flowing, and you focus in on accounting for those items to a much smaller geographic area, maybe a section or a zone inside a warehouse, for instance. So really, autonomous readers will be positioned at key choke points. You might imagine ship and receiving docks, in and out of buildings, between departments, where material would logically move around, and where IT equipment could even move around inside of the office. All of these are where autonomous reading comes into play. So you've got data collection points without any human involvement, which is one of the big things and differences. Now, between RFID and barcode, I should add.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, remember the thing I always say, barcode and RFID will always live alongside each other
Mm-hmm.
for decades to come because there are certain functions RFID is not good for. So, one example is like imagine you've got items going into a warehouse and you want to put them away to a specific location in a bin, right? RFID is not the answer for that. You've got to have a one-to-one relationship, just like barcode, so that you're scanning items to a specific location. So there are things like that that will make it always coexist together in these areas.
Let's unpack a couple of the things there, Peter. You brought on a lot of good things there that maybe we could dive into a couple of them. Let's go into the workforce or the labor aspect of RFID and some of the efficiencies that the technology brings, because we all hear about how workforce issues are being compounded right now, not just due to the pandemic or and all the other factors that are going into it, but it's a reality, right? Whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're a distribution center, there's an issue there. So when I hear you say stuff like, there's a 30x efficiency rating that can be achieved when you implement RFID in certain ways within a particular facility like that, that's really compelling, right? That gets to the whole business case of why RFID. When you add into the fact that tag costs are coming down, have been plummeting, well, have been really just lowering year after year after year,
Yeah.
that business case, it gets a little bit easier to make. Would you agree?
I totally agree, I'll add that the fact, companies that are understanding this dynamic, that tag prices have come down, reader technology continues to expand and improve, different ways of reading, mounting, tunnels being built so that items can flow between, and you've got great control over these choke points now. All of this is evolving much more so than it was 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. So, with that being said, I think what's important to recognize is the timing on this and the labor challenges in the market really are amplifying the need for this technology. And the thing I'll say about for any VARs that are out there that are looking at, okay, do I want to represent this, is that remember these companies are going to come hot and heavy, meaning like they're going to say, we want this technology and how quickly can you get it implemented? And this is not just a simple drop-in technology
Mm-hmm.
and within a week and now you're good to go, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
wouldn't
No.
that be great? There's always a lot of process considerations to think about when implementing RFID because it changes the way these organizations have to think about their process, sometimes in a profound way. But that doesn't mean that you need to become process experts. You just need to help them realize when they're implementing this, yes, it's going to save them on labor over the long haul, but also it's going to help change the way they think about their business, the way that they go about their workflows and their processes. And that's going to be an organically thing that's going to grow over time, maybe a few years, but they will be in a much better place for the long haul, for when all these supply chain issues and labor issues come around again.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Pete, and the sense of the education that goes into the RFID sale. Maybe we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But one other thing I wanted to unpack on some of the opening thoughts that you had there was around visibility, supply chain visibility, because we see a lot of our customers are coming to, and their end users are not immune to what's going on in supply chain. I mean, they are getting a significant amount of pressure to have greater visibility on where products, supplies, components are in the process. Whether you're in food, whether you're in manufacturing, it doesn't really matter. There's a general need for more supply chain visibility. And to your point, where RFID I think has a really good fit is in some of those aggregate needs for data, right? Where things are, how they're moving, pallets by pallet, or things like that. So when you think about supply chain visibility, RFID can have a significant impact there, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, so we're dealing with lots of companies that are dealing with shipments going off to retailers, right? The
Hmm. Hmm.
WalMarts of the world, for
Yeah.
instance. And as we understand the business problem before we even think about the technology to solve it, right? We always want to hear about where are the key pain points. And a lot of the key pain points that keep coming back to us is that it doesn't matter that we get a pallet out the door going to the right direction to the right end customer. What's important is that we get the right pallet out the door going to the right end customer,
Mm.
because it's all about supplier reputation in a
Hmm.
lot of these areas. And if you get the wrong product getting on that pallet, getting on that truck, you have a big problem downstream, because your customer reputation will be tainted, and you probably will incur some number of fines that's going to erode or eat away entirely at your margin that you're making. So it's all about not only knowing what's going on in your warehouse and where you have product, which feeds so many other facets too. Like when you can accurately understand your own inventory, you know what you need to be making further upstream,
Hmm. That's
right? What
right.
raw
Yep.
materials you need to be procuring. But if you don't, and you end up shipping the wrong product, it starts to unravel really quickly. And what happens now is that there's a lot of mixing and matching of palettes that go on, because, certain retailers
Oh
may
yeah.
not just want one color, there's 15 colors to choose from. So
Hmm.
you got to make sure the pallet gets packed correctly, gets on the right truck, gets out the door. And with labor challenges, man, that is tough to do if you are not using RFID.
Yeah.
RFID can be such a powerful tool in that situation, which is what we're seeing all the time.
Yep. And I'll go a little bit further on some of that package verification or shipping verification. When you think about supply chain visibility, and John, I know you know this as well. Our TEConnect program, which we're going out and trying to find, the folks that are dealing with that are coming into our ecosystem. And I'm saying our ecosystem kind of collectively here, from
Mhm.
an ADC RFID kind of perspective. We're getting a lot of AI folks that are coming in. They're trying to apply that. And what do they need? Well, they need data, but a lot
Yep.
of times they're using the data to do just that: package verification, shipping verification. These are, I don't want to call them short putts, but it's where some pain points are right now, just across multiple industries. And so when you think about it, it's a good place to have a conversation around RFID, because it has some advantages when you get into that kind of verification process.
Definitely. And that data part of things too. Like it's hard enough to figure out what to do with the data when you have it. But
Hmm.
if you got to spend a ridiculous amount of time figuring out how you're going to collect that data, that's an
Hmm.
entirely different problem to solve right there too.
Hmm.
So if you can simplify at least part of that, simplify and say, "Hey, we can collect the data very quickly and easily for you using RFID." And then someone comes along and helps you figure out how to do the analytics piece of it too. Awesome. At least half of that is simple and not the entire process looks like a nightmare from start to finish. Like, no, you're gonna have to individually count all these things. You're gonna have to find and scan a bunch of barcodes. You're gonna spend days, if not weeks, getting that part done. And then you're gonna have to figure out what to do with all this data you've collected.
Well,
At least let's simplify part of it.
that's a really good point, John. I mean, when you think about it from a manufacturer's standpoint, again, they're getting the pressure where there's this need for increased visibility into their
Mhm.
operation. And they already have barcoding already implemented throughout parts of their process, right? And they're thinking to themselves, well, I know how long it takes to do a cycle count,
Yep.
using the
Yep.
technology I have today. How and now I got to lump on this additional visibility. Well, that's where maybe an RFID kind of, and to Pete, I love the fact that you say, yes, it's a hand in hand technology, right? I mean, they're going to live together. There's certain use cases where RFID really kind of shines, and that's one of those areas where it can help. So,
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest, in this fast pace, deliver it as quick as possible, insights as quick as possible world. If
hmm
you're saying like, yeah, the time it's going to take you to do this and the time it's going to take you to run that data is going to be maybe up to a week, at the fastest we can do it for you is in a week's time. That's already 5 days too long, probably for most people in the shipping and logistics industry. Like, nope, it's already too long. You've already wasted our time. Our customers are already pissed off and going somewhere else. So why even
right.
bother? Well,
Well,
then,
here's one other market dynamic too. I'll throw in, guys, which is the fact that you've got a lot of these manufacturers that are trying to get the right pallets to the right retailers. But the other part of the market, which is an enormous piece of this market, is how do these companies shift their operation so that they can handle direct to consumer, right? The whole
Yes.
direct to consumer is a whole different workflow, a whole different set of processes, and a whole different way in which you have to pick, pack, and ship within. And let's use Amazon as the example, within that very short time window to make sure you can make these prime commitments of 2-day delivery to door,
hmm
right?
hmm
So all of that is, compelling these companies to use data collection technologies like RFID to say, how do I now, not only take the bigger pallet stuff going out, but also shift my operation so I know exactly what I can get to the right customer. Because, man, if you start screwing up those direct to consumer shipments, consumers can be ruthless. And
A new world
yep,
of hurt.
oh, I
Yes.
am one.
Right. Right.
we're
You
all
know?
ready to give that 1-star review just because our package showed up, a day later than we expected. Yeah.
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 Or with
We're
the wrong
fickle that
product
way.
in it, God
Oh
forbid.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Oh, it happened to me at Christmas time. I ordered something for my kiddo, and like they kept sending me the wrong product. They sent me the wrong product the first time, so I sent it back. Asked them to reship me. They reshipped me, and it was the same wrong product again. Like, what's the point of this? So, obviously at this point, if you're not sold on RFID, you should maybe just turn this podcast off and go somewhere else. Because I mean, come on, I think we've made the case here pretty big by this point. But obviously, making the case for RFID and implementing RFID for one of your customers, for instance, is two different things. So, Pete, talk to us about how important it is to have a strong strategy if you want to implement RFID, and what should you be looking for with software and hardware partners to help you get that implementation underway.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So getting the right hardware and software and the right partnerships in place is hugely important for all of this. What we have seen and experienced over the years is that many resellers may try to provide what we call RFID in the box, which is basically you throw a lot of components into a box and you ship it to a customer and like there's your RFID deployment. Good
Hmm.
luck,
Right.
right? It becomes a huge science project, and there's lots of risk. There's lots of frustration, and honestly, like I can say it because I've seen it and been there and learned all the lessons. Is like there's a lot of failure associated with that model. So at A2B, we consider that the pieces all have to work together in order for this to work, right? The readers need to let's just think about this, unpack it, right? Readers need to detect a tag, right? That's one thing. Like you're like, oh, basic, right? But there's two very key important parts of that system right there. Then the license plate, the data itself needs to go somewhere. So there's got to be intelligent software in the middle, that middleware, that needs to get it off to the right place. Now, once it gets to the right place, that data then needs to be distilled into a form that's meaningful to somebody who's trying to get the business value out of it. So the
hmm
intelligent application software has to be there. And we're not done yet because a lot of people have ERP systems. So there's a lot of this data that needs to use an API maybe to get back to an ERP system. So there's a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of them that are very well packaged now, though. That's the really important distinction.
hmm
And it's available in the market. Don't let those moving parts intimidate you because with a lot of those moving parts, when you do it well, there's huge opportunity in the marketplace because companies or IT departments, they just can't do this themselves unless they are a mega massive company that might have a lot of free time in their IT department. And with
Hmm.
security and everything, they just don't. They just don't. So be the expert in this area, and you're gonna reap lots of reward from it.
But I think he touched on all the components there that really do make it very, very important to conceptualize how this is going to be implemented, what the environment is. There's a lot of moving parts along the way. Really good
Yep.
points there. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to what we preach all the time on this podcast, which is go in expecting to sell solutions of some
Hmm.
sort.
Yeah. Right.
Not, hey, here's your scanner, here's your tags. Bye. See you later. Let me know if
Good luck.
let me
Let us
know
know
when you
how it
need more
turns out.
tags.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't work that way. We all know that. So if you've got to have that strategy, you got to be ready to go in with a full solution. Uh,
It's actually pretty fun. Let me just add one more, and that is that we get a lot of phone calls where they're like, "Yeah, we just bought 20 RFID readers from wherever, and the readers came in and they're like, gee, we're not really sure what to do with them next. You guys have any ideas?" So it gets back to my mantra of like how you implement this stuff is very nuanced in the sense that
Hmm.
you imagine you've got a mobile reader in your hand and maybe you're driving it by a smartphone or a touch computer. You got to have the app software that is driving the data capture functions if you've got a human involved. So you don't want to just pull a trigger and have it be like an automatic weapon that just fires into all directions. You need to be doing something meaningful. And that's where app software that connects to the cloud can be really powerful in helping to accomplish a physical inventory or to
Yeah.
pick an item. And the same is true with fixed readers. It's even more amplified to just not get the science project in a box shipped to you as a customer, because at the end of the day, when you start putting these fixed readers in overhead, like we walk in and there might be 8, 10 shipping receiving docks, right, all saddled right next to each other. How do you
Hmm.
know that what is going through this particular shipping receiving dock is only capturing what's going through that dock and not capturing stuff on docks on either side of it,
Hmm.
but right, with stray
Hmm.
reads and other things like that? So it's those kind of nuances you really have to be understanding that this technology is untamed radio signal that can be tamed, can be pulled back in when you go to deploy, and it's that ability to execute on that's going to make the customer succeed or fail with it really
Yeah.
in the end.
Agreed. Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Pete, I'm told that you have a very common sense approach to RFID. I feel like that's kind of come out already, but tell us more about what that means to you. What is your common sense approach?
Yeah, I mean, common sense RFID. It's what we use. That's our mantra here. The first thing is that I'll just say why we use it, because it sends a clear message to the customer that this technology was invented and will be applied in a way that solves a business problem that will turn into value for the organization, right?
Hmm.
So common sense RFID, and the underlying theme is that we just don't pursue science projects, right? The technology is far too evolved. People can imagine a lot with RFID, and it can easily become a very sciencey approach to try and implement something. So there's a historical stigma, in our opinion, with RFID that it can become a science project quickly. And we
Hmm.
want to dispel that in customers' minds.
Hmm.
Science projects, again, equal, you know, unpredictable and expensive. Neither
Expensive.
are
Right.
good.
That's it.
Neither are
Yeah.
good.
Hmm.
So anyway,
Do
our foundation of common sense RFID really stems from the A2B tracking, asset management, and inventory control platform that lives in the cloud, right? Its ability to connect to devices quickly, to be able to do meaningful things with the data quickly, to provide that business value, with dashboard views of the data in a way that lets them see where pallets are moving or where IT equipment's being tracked, whatever the case may be, for two reasons. One is it's the time to value. So every organization's like, okay, if we apply this technology, how soon are we going to start reaping the gains on it?
Mhm.
So our platform is we keep investing in how do we get faster time to value for
Hmm.
the customer. The second is predictable success. And again, that's always back to RFID is untamed until it's tamed. And that way it allows us to go in, maybe do proof of concepts in some environments, get that proof down, and then be able to deploy to scale. And so there's a lot of that, but you know it's the speed to deploy, the predictable success for us that really wins the day over in these customers' minds.
Yeah, and I had the benefit of being at an executive summit with Pete, and I had some of your presentation there, Pete. And thanks again for doing that. I'm gonna pick up on some of the things that you were talking about there that I think kind of ring true here. There were three things actually that you kind of pointed out at the time. Keep a focus on performance, right? You're setting an expectation on read accuracy and things of that nature. You really got to kind of stay focused on the performance aspect of what we're trying to build here, and how RFID comes into play, and creating the clearer picture, right? It's all around the data management and the need to link the information that you're getting back into that real business value that you're trying to build by augmenting maybe, or including new now RFID. And then I never forget the chicken and egg, right? It's how RFID technology integrates and improves the overall process. You got to keep those certain very commonsensical things, right? It's performance, it's creating a clear picture on the data, and implementing it into the process with due diligence, I guess, right? Common
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Totally agree.
Well, again, if you're not sold on RFID by this point, I don't know. I don't know. Find something else to do in your industry, because I think
Go
we've
back to
made the case.
Excel.
Yeah. Oh man, no doubt. Yeah. It reminds me back in the day when I used to work at retail. Dean, and you and I were talking about this, like bookstore days 20 years ago, 15, 20, 25 years ago. And when we had to do inventory, and this is a small mall-based bookstore. I don't know, let's say maybe 4 or 5,000 books total in the whole place. But we had to bring in somebody from the outside on a Saturday night after hours to do all of this scanning. There's all this stuff they would miss because books would be under shelves or in the back room or tucked away somewhere that someone forgot about. It was a extremely inefficient and unhelpful process for the most part. And that's what I think of when I think of helping out with labor shortages and just making it simpler and easier to do this with something like RFID. So,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like I said, that's at a small scale compared to what you'd see in a giant warehouse or a manufacturing facility where you have a lot of stuff to keep track of.
Or high value assets, right? I mean, kind of where Pete
Yeah,
was
oh
in the
yeah,
beginning
exactly.
there. If you have a lot of high value assets and you got to do cycle count inventory for these types of things, it's a natural fit there a lot.
Yep,
So yeah.
definitely. Well, Pete, let's wrap this part up by shifting gears a little bit and talking about some autonomous robots. It's a topic we love to get into here on the podcast. And you had mentioned, that you were kind of interested in like what Fetch is doing with Tag Surveyor. They've got a partnership with Zebra now, so we've been hearing a lot about that. We did a marketing campaign with Fetch a few years back too. So obviously these are starting to gain some traction in warehouses. You're starting to see more and more of it happening. There's more discussion about it and how it can, again, help out with labor issues, help improve productivity and getting more out the door every day. But how do these robots fit into the RFID picture?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. Well, I'm going to begin by saying, if you want to get people's eyebrows raised, right? Talk about autonomous robots. They're all right. Tell me more.
Right.
People
Right.
love something as cool as an autonomous robot going around
Yep.
doing inventory counts in their warehouse. They are, in fact, a powerful addition to the RFID data capture hardware world, right?
Mhm.
But from our perspective, yes, this is incredibly powerful technology, very sophisticated, but it's just another data collection stream as far as we're concerned, because that's where it all comes back to the cloud and making sure all this data gets coalesced in a,
Hmm.
in a meaningful way. So let me just clarify a couple things on, so A2B tracking, we began partnering with Fetch Robotics over a couple years ago now. Because, and by the way, Fetch was recently, as you stated, acquired by Zebra
Hmm.
Technologies over the past, I don't know, a couple months. They actually did something pretty amazing with this innovation. So they took their market leading sensor based robots, which were basically like a highly intelligent platform on wheels
Hmm.
that can,
Hmm.
move materials around in a warehouse and live in there and just, pick things up and bring them around the warehouse. They did something smart. They added a stack of RFID readers on a vertical housing that also angled in such a way that can read RFID tags not only at the floor level where a lot of pallets live, right, or
Hmm.
boxes live,
Hmm.
but
Mhm.
also 20 feet high on some of the higher shelving that you might be seeing in a warehouse.
Nice.
So these RFID tags are being captured in real time as the AMR, the autonomous mobile robot, is moving throughout the environment. And it's on a schedule and it's on a virtual rail system that gets defined by simply using the Wi Fi signal, which is
Hmm.
pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Totally. But you got to have strong Wi Fi. That's number one.
Hmm.
Because what's happening is that it not only is being directed via the Wi Fi, but the data is being captured and then fed back in semi real time back to the cloud.
Hmm.
It's buffering it a little bit on the robot, but ultimately, most of the data is moving pretty quickly back through the internet to the cloud wherever it happens to go. So we've
Hmm.
gone to the full extent of taking those AMRs and all that data capture and integrating it directly into the A2B platform. So, the question is, where do you apply these things, right? So they're really being applied from our experience into higher volume environments where things are constantly moving with a
Hmm.
certain amount of frequency. This is not a technology for every warehouse yet. But when you come across customers that have a need, right, that could be daily or weekly updates of inventory by location, this is very powerful when you need much more of a real time count as to what's going on in your inventory. These AMRs, by the way, it's really cool. These bases that are just, roaming around the warehouse, these AMRs at the end of their cycle, they go back, plug themselves in, right? They roll right up onto a charging base station. And, ultimately, it literally is no humans involved whatsoever.
Yeah.
And what's really nice is that for these AMRs, the coffee breaks for these guys are really short. So, you don't have to worry about them, hanging out too long in the coffee break.
Yeah.
But
What about the
the
smokers? Do they still go outside for inordinate amounts of time?
I think there might be a few of them still in the mix, but not
Okay.
many these days. But it actually, the technology is remarkably affordable too, because people think, autonomous robot, man, this might be so expensive. And I won't get into all pricing nuances here, but it is much more affordable than you'd expect. And what we're finding is that, it is not the sole answer. It's not the silver bullet, but
Right.
it is another technology to
Yep.
apply to an environment. And we go in and we mix and match, robots with fixed readers, with mobile readers. And it's that combination that creates the powerful picture and lets organizations to be, become
That's it.
extremely effective.
That's it.
Yep.
And as a solution integrator, as a reseller of these technologies, adding RFID to your tech stack is an important piece. I mean, it can be a valuable piece of that equation there. That's pretty cool. Yeah, and
Yep.
right. I mean, just think of a Roomba. I guess those have come down in cost, but now we got fixed readers on them, and you're just zooming around warehouses. To your point,
Okay,
the
so I need a Roomba at home then that can find my son's toys whenever he's bugging me. Daddy, where's my Batman? Like, I don't know. I'm not keeping track of your stuff.
Pete's got an
Ask the
answer for
Roomba.
you. Yeah, we just
There you
tag
go.
it up, and there you go.
I like it. I
That's
like
right. It can't climb stairs yet, though. So I'm sorry to say.
it.
We'll need one per floor. That's right. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If you at least tell me it's not on this floor, that would give me a good start too. So, well, thanks so much, Pete. I feel like we've got a nice, good dive into RFID and why it can be useful here. We'll get back to you in a moment to tell everybody about how A2B tracking can actually help them out too, in particular. But first, as always, I do want to thank our TEConnect sponsors: DataLogic, Elo, Epson, Honeywell, Intel, and Zebra. Thank you so much for your support for the show. We could not do this without you. We were glad to have you on board this year. Hey, if you want to reach out to us, first of all, if you like the show, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a review, leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. just tell us what you like about the show. It helps us, build the audience, let other people know about us. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that, as the kids say, smash that subscribe
Smash
button.
the subscribe button. That's right.
And subscribe to our channel so you're not missing out on these episodes or all the other cool video content that we do here at BlueStar. And finally, if you do want to reach out to us at any time, let us know what you think of the show, have questions or topics that you're interested in hearing more about, you can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, well, hey, let's wrap things up, starting first of all with our value to the VAR. This is kind of where we like to present some sort of a takeaway for our audience that they can maybe go out and do something with today related to our topic. And in particular, I want them to learn a little bit more about you and A2B tracking and how you can help. So tell them a little bit more about how you help VARs with that implementation piece and getting RFID to their customers in a solution that actually works for them.
Well, yeah. So if you've been listening so far, you can hear the dependency we have on the success of all this stemming from our A2B tracking, asset management, and inventory control platform in the cloud. And what we do is we continue to invest in that heavily to provide VARs a significant advantage in delivering RFID projects with the fastest possible time to value and predictable success. So I'll add that our common sense approach to RFID really, enables these companies that we work with to solve the business problems, right? And the software already ties nicely into mobile readers. There's powerful Android app we have available that makes mobile readers work and perform functions that leverage the technology. We've also certified to our whole platform to many of the Zebra and Impinj technologies, basically to enable these as internet devices that get connected through to the platform. So it's really about the packaged approach in being able to know that you're going to get the success out the other side for the customer. And the other thing I'll add too is that this platform really helps enable successful and powerful proof of concepts. Because a lot of companies are like, wow, I could see this in so many areas, but I want to start here.
Right.
And when I know I can see the results, I'm then going to scale. And this lets you get to a POC very, very efficiently.
Yeah, I can vouch for Pete and his company. I mean, they've been a great partner of ours, and the fact that they have advanced RFID specialists, Zebra specialists as well, with the integration that they're doing there, easy for our other resellers to become involved and get to know what they can do and put that mix into your tech stack in a very meaningful, deliberate, and good way. Yeah.
Yep. And I know also you guys do a lot of great work with government contractors where your processes and your technology is very beneficial and built with government contractors in mind and their particular needs. And, obviously specificity is even more important for them than a lot of other industries. You can't mess up a government contractor. You might be losing out on a lot of money. So definitely that's something to consider and keep in mind. We just had an episode about government last week. So if you listen to that one, stuck around for this one, again, A2B someone to reach out to on that front as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Well, hey, let's wrap up with our favorite segment of each week. What's TEConnecting with you? This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, innovation, technology that has caught our eye, has our attention. It could be something inspirational that leads to the future of humanity or something that could doom us all or just, drag us back to the dark ages. Who knows? But Pete, I'll let you start. What's TEConnecting with you right now?
Well, really for us, it's constantly. I mean, I know this doesn't need to be about the work environment, but it's about these connected devices. I'm fascinated by the use of these things that are sensors, right? That are now being able to be attached to the internet and provide interesting data flowing back through. And I think AMRs is one of the thing that I like the most. But I'm going to just totally tangent off that for a moment, and I'm actually going to talk about another innovation. So earlier this week, I am in an area of the country where I was waking up to minus 10 degrees, right?
Yeah.
And with highs of getting to 0 for the day.
Right.
I mean, freezing, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I try and do during the wintertime and the shorter daylight hours and the longer, darker hours is I always make sure I gotta get outside and just get like a walk or some form of
Yep.
exercise in, so I don't
Right.
feel so claustrophobic. I was going out there in -5 degrees, maybe -8 degrees, and clothing technology has become unbelievable now.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
totally comfortable with the synthetics and the layers that I had on there. That to me, honestly, I believe that's an incredible innovation because I remember if I if I was thrown onto a chairlift when I was a kid, all I had was some wool mittens on, and my hands would be frozen like getting the first third of the way up the chairlift.
Right.
Right. Right.
Right.
It was a miserable experience. Now you can kind of stay out for hours in these cold temperatures, and they even have now, built-in heaters to gloves, to
Right.
boots.
Hmm.
Like,
Yes.
Hmm.
you've got really a much
Creature
more common
comforts.
sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Skiing with
Yep.
hand warmers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's what's getting me going because man, it's a survival thing for me right now, guys.
I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it. I like it. I'm with you on the
Well,
clothing technology because I'll go out on my walk or my run in the morning, and I agree with you. I've got some technology, that you can pick up anywhere. But what I realize, Pete, is what part of my body is exposed, right? So there's still areas when I go on my walk or what my cheeks or whatnot are exposed, and I come back from a cold. And of course, only people in cold weather understand what we're talking
right.
about here. But
Right.
you come back and it's like your cheeks are frozen. So now I'm hyper aware of what is exposed. And I'm like, oh, I need a little piece of technology for my cheeks or something like
Right. Right.
Well,
It's an
I might
opportunity.
need to tap you guys on some of this technology and this clothing because I love to go for walks, but I'm not a cold weather guy at all. So
Yes, I hear you.
I've been stuck on the elliptical for the last couple of months and I'm ready to get outside. So if you can tell me something that I can do that
Here's the
where
first thing you
I
need to
don't
buy:
freeze.
a balaclava. It's one of those
Okay.
things
Yeah.
that was the first thing that I invest. They can be paper thin, and it'll make a dramatic difference on your overall warmth of your head. So
You
there's
got a
my
good point. The face is the
yes,
critical part there.
there's
You
my
can be
pro
covered
tip
up
for you.
everywhere else, but if this is getting cold, you're like, nope, I'm done. I'm going back home. So,
That's right. That's right. That's
all
right.
right,
Well,
good
here's
stuff.
what's tech connecting with me.
Yep.
Right, we all use batteries. Are you getting sick and tired of charging your batteries? I mean,
Oh yeah.
I don't want to sound like a first world problem that I got here, but here's one that's kind of connecting to what we were talking about here. Here's the headline: Samsung debuts remote that recharges via radio frequency emitted by wireless internet routers. So right? So
Interesting.
Samsung's, they got their scientists over there and they're figuring, well, here's a device, a remote that obviously takes very little energy to operate. But somehow they've come up with technology where they can recharge that just by the radio frequencies that are flying around everybody's house right now through Wi-Fi. I don't know if you had
Wow.
heard about this, Pete. But, we were just talking about the need for good Wi-Fi and the space and stuff like that. Who knew that there's enough energy behind that to recharge a battery? I mean, so I was reading, of course, they're coming at it by 99 million AAA batteries are thrown away every 7 years and stuff like that. But I was thinking about other technologies, and it's just fascinating what is happening right now, and as far as energy and renewable energies. The other thing that they're working on is, okay, that remote is sitting in an environment around a TV where there's audio energy, right? So they're going to try to harness just the audio energy to recharge the battery as well. That's cool stuff. That's the kind of stuff that we all need. Who needs to plug it in? We just have it sit here and it's recharging off of audio and it's recharging off your Wi-Fi signal. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, well,
That is
I'll,
pretty
I'll
cool.
say that you will have already, by the time I mention this, when I get back to my house at the end of the day today, and my teenagers who need to have all of their batteries recharged for their Xbox.
Yes.
So, I mean, you just totally made their day right there when I tell them this news. So, thanks
There
for
you
that. I'll
go.
look like the hero
There
walking
you
in.
go. Yeah.
Except they're going to expect you to buy it as soon as something
Right.
is available. And it's going to cost like $2,000 or something now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's tech
Oh, that's
connecting
pretty
with you,
cool.
John?
So I'm going to go back to space again. We talked about
Oh yeah. Okay.
the James Webb Telescope a couple episodes ago. So here's another one that came across. Scientists found an exoplanet with a 16-hour year. So
What?
it's so close to its star that
Oh, got it.
a revolution around that star only takes 16 hours. It's a doomed gas giant. They call these things hot Jupiters because it's very similar to Jupiter in our solar system. But obviously, this one again is super close to its star, and apparently, it's getting slowly closer and closer. So eventually, it's probably going to get consumed or fall into this star at some point. 855 light years away in the Hercules constellation. I just thought hot Jupiters was a cool sounding term
Right?
too. Like I feel like that should be a drink. There's some kind of drink maybe that you can make called a hot Jupiter. I don't know.
Probably
But
not a good real estate investment yet, though.
No, yeah,
No,
really
no,
good
I'm thinking
point there,
not.
Pete. Yeah.
And also, I would think if you're in the world of business and you're on a planet with a 16-hour year, that's a lot of pressure to get stuff done every year. Did you meet your sales goal? Like, look, I only had 16 hours, but did you meet it? Like, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. So.
How'd Q1 go for you? Well, it just happened. What?
Yeah. That was 6 hours ago. Yeah. Oh, man.
That's good.
All right. Well, hey, that does it for us today. Pete Collins, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us. We
Pete.
appreciate having you on.
Thanks, guys.
Until next time, for Dean Reverman, I'm John Martin, and watch out for the energy flowing around you.
Yes, harness it.
Hopefully it's only charging your stuff and not, zapping our brains or something. So, and as always, please stay connected. The TEConnect podcast is brought to you by ELO. Need large, eye-catching, interactive digital signage for anything from endless aisle to collaborative meetings, conferencing, and whiteboarding? Look no further than ELO's 4K 65-inch interactive touchscreen display, the 6553L. It's sleek and slim, but built for continuous use. Available with either PCAP or infrared touch technologies, the professional-grade large-format display delivers captivating digital experiences in public places and engaging communication in the enterprise. Choose either a ELO Windows computer module or Android backpack to transform the display into a powerful 65-inch all-in-one life-size tablet. I mean, I like my iPad, but it's not 65 inches. That's pretty cool. And with ELO's EdgeConnect platform, simply add or remove peripheral accessories to create a custom solution that is flexible enough to adapt to changing needs. Now, ELO also has your back with a standard 3-year warranty and complimentary advanced unit replacement. That's peace of mind for your customers who simply need their signage technology to work. Contact your BlueStar representative to learn more. The TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Zebra. Hey, we just spent an entire episode talking about RFID, but of course, to put together the best solution, you have to have the best-in-class hardware. Introducing the RFD40 UHF RFID sled, Zebra's latest flexible RFID offering with superior read performance. Compatible with the latest and future Zebra mobile computers, the RFD40 delivers industry-best read performance at 1,300 plus tag reads per second, an optimized read range, and an increased 7,000 mAh battery capacity that decreases time spent on cycle counting and inventory. Workers can change the sled and mobile computer at the same time and easily switch between different Zebra devices. The state-of-the-art Rain RFID sled has durable drop specs, optimal battery performance, and a superior ergonomic design that you've come to expect from Zebra. Check out the link in the show notes for more info on this budget-friendly, future-proof solution.